I will always say this: a promoter's dream is for controversy. This fight had controversy leading into it, and boy, did it deliver. For those of you that have not yet seen it, I recommend you go and check out. If you can't watch the whole fight, at least watch the grand finale, the KO by Dave Allen of Johnny Fisher in the 5th round, right at the bell with a hook, a left hook to be specific. Absolutely phenomenal display there in this fight. Now, Fisher was ahead on the scorecards before the stoppage. It could be debatable there, but that's what it was. Let's set up the scene there for this fight. Dave Allen is one of the most beloved fighters in the British scene. And I think overall he's starting to grow around the rest of the world. But when you talk about the British scene, Dave Allen is beloved. And in this fight, he had a chance to go fight Johnny Fisher, one of the biggest up-and-coming, you could say, prospects to a certain extent that was coming in the matchroom scene. And when they head out to Riyadh season on the undercard for Usyk and Fury, and they fight, and it was a very, very controversial loss for Dave Allen. Many would have said at least it was a draw, but possibly even Dave Allen winning that fight. I'm not getting into the specifics of that controversy there. The point is that Johnny Fisher probably does not deserve that win and should either have a draw or a loss on his loss column heading into this fight, and that maybe would have prevented that fight from even occurring. But here we go. Johnny Fisher gets that win, and everybody knew it was very controversial. And so what happens? Well, we set up a fight for a rematch on Saturday. And I will say this. Johnny Fisher was the guy that, of course, people were favoring to win for a long time. Johnny Fisher was the bigger name from the standpoint of what was being pushed to the media by Matchroom and by those that are covering the sport. He was pushed as this next big British heavyweight. Those of you that have watched it knew that he was not quite that prospect that I think he probably was proclaimed to be. Some were a little bit higher on him than others, but still, Johnny Fisher was pushed to be this elite up-and-coming guy. To the fact even where I will say this, I am shocked because the WBA and WBO at this moment in time, now it will change very shortly, have Johnny Fisher ranked in the top 15. And that could either be because of the fact that the heavyweight division is not very deep, but also by the fact that, listen, I think he was a little bit overhyped. And we head into this fight, and Dave Allen had a chance to redeem himself. And here's what I will always say to a fighter. When controversy occurs, which is boxing, controversy, unfortunately, will always be a part of the sport. But what I must suggest is this. How are you going to handle business when you get back in that ring? Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Allen answered that question. That, my friends, is how you take care of business in a ring when you were wrongly given a loss for that fight against Johnny Fisher. As you're battling down that fight, you hurt Johnny Fisher, you drop him, and then we get into the final seconds of the round. And he lands a devastating left hook to knock Johnny Fisher down, ends up resulting in a KO. Fight is over, end of the 5th round with an electric KO. And I want to put this about Dave Allen. Dave Allen is somebody that I think deserves the credit he's getting right now. He is a beloved fighter, and there's a reason for that. When you talk about Dave Allen, I think he's one of the most genuine fighters out there. He's a guy that is so hard not to root for and not like. Listen, the guy shows up, but he's not always in the best shape. Now, he's a very, very skilled fighter. Don't get that twisted. But in the same breath, Dave Allen obviously is a guy that does not always put his full effort into boxing at all times. He's a guy that's going to come and show back up later on and just be like, okay, I'm ready for another fight, and then go out there and do his work. He hasn't not taken boxing extremely seriously, but that does not change the fact that he's a very skilled fighter. But he's just a guy that people can just get behind and love. And I think Anthony Joshua put this perfectly. Dave was suicidal, a gambling addict who everyone thought was fit a few years ago. Now he's got a family, a few $100,000 to his name, and got his biggest win. That's boxing. That's from Anthony Joshua. I think that perfectly sums up Dave Allen. When you talk about a guy that you can just root for, a guy that you can easily get behind, a guy that goes out there and just proves people wrong, shows up, puts on a great fight, makes the fight always entertaining, whether that be from the build-up process to the actual fight itself, and then who he is outside of the ring is a humble, down-to-earth, fun, lovable type of guy. It's hard not to root for a guy like Dave Allen. And to see him have that monumental of a win on Saturday was huge. I think that's what made that knockout even better. It's because we were looking at a guy that has had the story he's had. And you get that in a lot of sports, sure. But this type of story where you can go out there and redeem yourself the way that Dave Allen did, upsetting a massive up-and-coming prospect in the 5th round after you're wrongly given a loss just a few months ago, and you can right your wrongs in the ring, and you have the story behind your name, and yet you go out there and put an exclamation mark, a monumental, a career highlight reel moment for Dave Allen. Absolutely phenomenal display. And I think we just got to give hats off to Dave Allen for that massive win there. That being said, let's get into what's next for both guys because, as I just said, you're looking at a guy in Dave Allen who now has set himself up for the biggest win of his career, and now he's back on the scene for a little bit. And so my honest answer is there's only one person that he needs to fight next. The winner of David Adelale versus Jamie TKV that's going to be coming up very shortly. That's the fight you need to make. The winner of that fight needs to fight Dave Allen. Perfect. Now let's head over to Johnny Fisher, though. I just talked about the fact that Johnny Fisher was ranked by inside the top 15 by the WBA and WBO. He is not a world level fighter, let's just be honest. I love Dave Allen, just give him his praise and props. But Dave Allen is not a guy that's going to go compete on the national worldwide scene. And Johnny Fisher was ranked in that top 15 on 2 of the commissioning bodies, WBA and WBO. A little bit shocking there, to be honest, when you look at it. But the truth of the matter is this. Johnny Fisher was proclaimed to be that next great heavyweight prospect coming out of Britain. Now, obviously, there's a level. Nobody thought he was going to necessarily be Mosey Toma. I know there were some people that thought that would be a 50-50 fight. I never believed that. I think Mosey Toma is far greater than any other prospect in Britain right now. I think he's actually one of the top fighters in all the heavyweight division. But people thought Johnny Fisher was next up. That's why he was ranked in the top 15. That's why he was Matchroom's cash cow of a guy that they were going to continue to push as their next great heavyweight. That's not the case anymore, folks. Many people that studied boxing and saw the way he fought knew that was not Johnny Fisher's future. That doesn't mean that Johnny Fisher is not going to get back to where he was, but he's not going to reach the point that people thought he would reach. Let me clarify that a little bit more for you. Johnny Fisher is going to be a guy that is going to get back to where he was before. What do I mean by that? Fighting at the English level, fighting at guys that are going to be in the area, local fights, guys that will be thrown up on the undercard, guys that are just going to be fun fights, that are entertaining fights, good build-up processes, and have a decent career over the next couple of years, where he's kind of already been at. But what Johnny Fisher is not going to be is the guy that's going to go compete on the worldwide scene. He does not have that in him yet. Now, maybe I'll be proved wrong, but from everything that I have seen up until this point, the future for Johnny Fisher is not going to be that guy. Who he has been throughout his career that's made his name and got him to where he's at today, that's going to be the type of Johnny Fisher we're going to continue to see and witness. But what Johnny Fisher is not going to be is a guy that fights on the worldwide level. He's not a top 15 type of guy, and he's not going to be a guy that's competing for world championships. But certainly he can be in the mix for British level fights, area level fights, and that's what we're going to go see him do. Because you can't deny the fact that he is always a part of entertaining fights. He's quite the character alongside his dad. And when you combine all that together, he's going to be able to sell quite well on the undercard for some decent fights in that area. That's what I've got in store for his future. But major props to Dave Allen once again. Just a sensational fight and performance by Dave Allen.